Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. This week we're going to be doing, or today we're going to be doing another Rambling on Readings video. This is going to be, I'm going to call it a weekly update. It's really been 10 days since I recorded my February TBR, and I just wanted to do a quick update because I've been reading at a really good pace. I've been really happy with my progress and way ahead of the curve as far as my TBR for the month goes than I would have suspected, which is a delight. So we're going to call it a weekly review, but really keep in mind it's been more like 10 days. So, and I don't think I'm going to do these videos every week. I might just do situations like these where I'm farther ahead than what I was suspecting on my TBR, or maybe there's been some like drastic changes, or I've gone in a different direction than what I originally set out to do in my monthly TBR. So for the most part, I try to stick to those monthly TBRs, but I also think it's important, if you've watched my other videos about avoiding burnout, is, you should, feel comfortable going in the directions that you want to. Sometimes when I finish a book, I'll just go over to my bookshelf and take a look at what I have that I haven't read yet, and what am I feeling, and I'm not necessarily going to just force myself to read X book and X series just because 2 weeks prior that was kind of my aim. So for the most part, I do stick to the TBR, but I'm also not afraid to kind of read whatever I'm feeling, because at the end of the day, as I've discussed in other videos, reading is about enjoyability. So I always try and keep that in mind. But anyways, let's get into just the update, what I've read, what are my plans going forward, because I've made some good progress on my TBR, way more progress than I thought in this amount of time. So we begin with the Dresden Files. In the last 10 days or so, I've made way more progress than I thought. I've read Summer Night, Death Mass, and Blood Rights. So in that TBR video, I had set out to do, I think, just 1 or 2 Dresden a month, and I managed to read 3 in about 10 days. I've been really enjoying the series, and that's really what kind of kicked this off. And I knew that from what I had heard, Summer Night kind of starts to make that turn. It starts to feel like a wider fantasy world, becoming something more. If you've seen my reviews for Summer Night and Death Mass are already out on the channel, so if you've seen those reviews, you'll know that I'm really happy with the direction it's taking. I'm really loving the world so far, and at the end of the day, there's still light, easier, just fun books to read. A lot of action, not too many just still books that for the most part you can just turn your brain off and enjoy, which I'm a big fan of, as you know. So if you haven't seen those 2 reviews, go check them out. I do have a very brief non-spoiler at the beginning of each of these, so just keep that in mind. If you haven't read them already, still go check out the videos, but it's not going in depth as far as non-spoiler goes. If you have read them, I do on both these reviews go pretty in depth and do full spoiler reviews. So that brings me to Blood Right. A little bit less happy than I didn't enjoy this book as much as I enjoyed these 2. I am not sure, I will say, it's been a few days since I've read it. The further away I get from it, I am liking it more. I think it was just a case of, I was reading, 1 of these a day pretty much, and I think I just kind of burned myself out a little bit on Dresden Files, understandably so. That I'm I wanted to wait a few days to review it for that reason. I think I just was, I overdid it a bit. And I think that was the main reason. Nothing wrong with this book. It's still very good, but I think even now that I'm further away from it, these 2 just were a little bit better in my opinion, but nothing too serious or major criticisms. Review on my channel will be coming out this week for Blood Rights, so I'll give my full thoughts in that video and go a little bit more in depth why I think it's not as strong as these 2, or why I might not have enjoyed it. But as far as Dresden Files go, I think I am. It's the 21st of February right now. I think I'm going to make a conscious decision not to read them for the rest of the month, just so I don't burn myself out on a series I'm having a lot of fun with. Part of me does want to carry on and pick one up, in the next few days and read it, but just, being aware that I think I did overdo it a bit on Dresden Files, reading 3 in the span of like 5 days. So those are my thoughts on Dresden, kind of the direction we're going to take. In March going forward, I'll definitely pick some more up and probably knock out another 2 or 3 in the month of March, but we'll kind of save that for the beginning of March. I don't want to give too much away for the March TBR video. Have nothing to talk about there. And then, like I said, it was a very, very strong reading, 10 days of reading for me. I picked up and finished Morningstar. Absolutely loved it. There will be a video out shortly reviewing this book. Once again, a pretty good non-spoiler chunk at the beginning of that video, and going further in depth and really diving in at length on spoilers and just my opinion on Morningstar and really the Red Rising trilogy as a whole. But Pierce Brown absolutely knocked the trilogy out of the park, in my opinion. And then along that same vein, I had started Dust of Dreams. I had started reading it prior to 10 days ago. It's been one of those ongoing books I've been with Malazan. I like to have a couple books going at the same time that aren't Malazan to kind of keep things lighter and fresh. And I also find that Eriksson's prose are so beautiful and just incredible. I love his writing style, that I actually find if I'm reading other books, and I don't mean this to come off as pretentious, I just love Eriksson's writing, but if I'm reading other books like Dresden Files or a Discworld that are a little bit more simpler, not simpler, but a little bit more accessible, it really just makes me appreciate what Eriksson has done with this series and, just his writing style in general. I'm always amazed. I cherish these books now, and really as I've gone further in this series, it's undisputably my favorite. So, and I would not have said that 2 or 3 books ago, well, 3 or 4. But as I go on, I just have more and more appreciation for these. And I'm really excited to start doing actual Malazan videos on this channel because it is consuming. I talk about, it's like, in my channel bingo, it could be a drinking game of how many times I mention a Malazan series in a non-Malazan video. So I'm hoping to wrap up the Crippled God, which is the final installment, probably at the beginning of March. And then it'll be so great. I'll do my first Malazan video on the channel, and I'm really, really excited for it. It might be an hour at this point. I've just got so much to say, but it'll just be like my thoughts on the series as I, freshly finished it, and then we can go from there. I plan on doing a reread almost immediately after I finish it, which I talk about not burning out on Malazan, but I'm already, that's how I'm coming to terms with finishing the series. I'm just telling myself, it'll be okay. I can, it's not the end. I'll start a reread. And then once I start my reread, I'll, release a lot of content from there. So hopefully you guys are looking forward to that. I'll do, why you should read video. And then I really want to go through and almost create like a video diary of a vlog, you could say, on my reread, for you guys, but also mainly for myself, just going through and almost chapter by chapter, just, recording and putting down my thoughts as I go through the series, really in depth, just because on this first read, my wife told me, because I'll read, like, if I come across a really nice passage, I'll read it out loud to her, just to kind of share that. Just because I, love sharing it with someone. And she was like, why don't you, write down all these quotes while you, read them out to me or while you're reading them. And I told her, I was like, on my first read through, I just want to, enjoy it for the sake of enjoying it, find those hidden gems or find those philosophical quotes in here, appreciate them, but not worry about kind of meticulously recording them or marking up the pages or creating post-it notes. And I did that intentionally in mind with, that's really going to be my goal for the reread, is to go through more in depth and really, study's the wrong word because to me, Malazan's too fun to consider it, a study. but to kind of record my thoughts on it as I go. I wanted to save that for the reread and just to kind of have that almost like innocence as you go through and experience it for the first time on my first read through. So yes, Dust of Dreams, absolutely incredible. Malazan somehow continues to just get better and better, it seems, with each installment. Definitely have a few standouts early on and through the way, but it's mind-blowing to me what Erikson has managed to do with that. So those are my long thoughts, as always. It can't be an update video or ramblings on reading without a Malazan ramble in there. So that's the story on that. So those are the, what is that? 5 books I've read in about the last 10 days or so. And now going on to what I'm currently reading and what you guys can expect maybe for the reviews towards maybe the very end of the month or the beginning of March. So I'm reading currently, no surprise there, Crippled God, which is the last installment in Malazan. I'm really intentionally taking my time with it. It's emotional picking up the last one in a series I've spent so much time reading. So it was hard for me to actually to pick this book up, if you can believe it or not, just because I knew it's like, this is it. This is the last time I'll be reading it for the first time. So I really just want to take this in, take my time on it. That's why I'm not going to rush myself to finish it by the end of February by any means, especially since I'm not going to be doing just a review on Crippled God. I'll save all those individual reviews for my read-through. So yeah, I'm about 150 pages or so the way through this one. Just really going to take my time, and like I said, I'll likely have this wrapped up in early March, although with Malazan, by the time I get like 600 or 700 pages into it, I usually binge the last 400 pages just because everything just goes crazy from there, and the conclusions to all of these books are just incredible. So it's a very real possibility. I might finish this by the end of February, but not going to put any pressure on myself too. And then the other book I'm currently reading, which I've been excited to pick up for a while, I just kind of have had a hard time fitting it into my schedule, is Sunderland Ascends, which is the first in the, I believe it's a trilogy. I think it's a trilogy, a completed trilogy. But it's the first in the Tower of Babel series. I've been hearing a lot of positive reviews that this is just such a fun and unique story. And I just love, the Tower of Babylon is, such an iconic story. And even before I picked it up, I knew I was going to love, a unique take on that. So, yeah, I'm just one chapter, about 10 pages into this, but really excited to finally read it. It's been sitting on my shelf for a while, but I try not to keep too many open series that I'm currently reading at a time, and I wanted to finish Red Rising before I picked up another trilogy, so that was kind of the thought process behind there. But yeah, excited to get in this one. I think it's going to be a really fun, unique story, so really excited for it. And as you know with Malazan, this is kind of like my palate cleanser alongside Malazan, just a more fun, not that Malazan isn't fun, but just a more fun, little bit lighthearted story to balance out Malazan. So that's the story with Sunderland Ascends. I probably will have this one wrapped up before the end of February and get out a review for you guys. So that's the story there. And then to wrap this one up, I did just want to briefly touch on kind of the changes to my TBR. I know I talked about in my February TBR video that I was going to, since I finished The Stand, I was going to start on The Dark Tower. I think I'm going to hold off on that for now. There's just other things that I want to read right now. As you guys know, I try and read based on what I want to, not necessarily what I've set out to. And I just didn't want to take, take on, such an undertaking as The Dark Tower just yet. Like I said, I am someone, I try and actively fight against that completionist nature that I have. But I know it would just irk me a little bit to start another series without, wrapping up a few of the other ones that I have. And that kind of brings me to my next point. I think in March, I'm going to finally finish Faithful and the Fallen. I am halfway through that series. I finished the first 2, and I've got the last 2 to go. I loved it, but I absolutely loved that series, and it just unfortunately came at a time where I had finished the second installment, Valor, and then I just was burnt out on reading, and I took a long break. So no fault to John Gwynne or Faithful and the Fallen. They're some of my favorite books actually right now. So I'm excited to get back into that. I think I will have to do a little research and digging through my notes just to get caught up to speed on some of the things I've forgotten the last 8 or so months. But I'll likely have that wrapped up in March, and that's kind of my goal for that. Wrap up, that series that I have opened, and then maybe look at Dark Tower from there. So yeah, that's the story there. And then going on, so the 2 major changes from my TBR video is just not doing Dark Tower for now, and then I talked about starting the Live Ship Trader trilogy by Robin Hobb, which I am still very excited to read. And I had mentioned that I might not get to it in this month, and I definitely won't, because I did think about picking it up, but it has been 5 or 6 years since I read the Farseer trilogy, and I did a little digging and tried to remember some details from that series. I looked up on the wiki and whatever, and tried to look for a good summary, and I kind of went to Google it, and I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to reread the Farseer trilogy, do the series, and do the universe that Robin Hobb has built a little bit more justice, and just do a quick reread of the Farseer trilogy. That way it's fresh in my mind, and then I can jump right into Live Ship Trader. And that's the other thing too. Part of these videos are obviously for you guys, but I hate the feeling of like forgetting what a story is fundamentally about. So when you go to read something like a continuation or a spin-off series, I hate, trying to scramble and research a book I've already read just for the sake of getting caught up to speed. So part of these videos, I want to record my thoughts and kind of the synopsis for myself to go back on and review. So I'm excited to read the Farseer trilogy, and I'm excited to get to the Live Ship Trader series. And part of that kind of chronicling of what I've read, I'm going to do reviews for the Farseer trilogy, and I'm excited to do that reread. I actually started listening to the audiobook. I have it saved in my library from 5 or 6 years ago. So I unfortunately don't have a physical copy, but I'm just going to likely listen to those, and I am a couple hours into the audiobook, and it's as great as I remember. That's unfortunately about the only thing I remember about the series, is that I really enjoyed it, which is still great, but yeah, I'm excited to dive back into Robin Hobb's realm of the Elderlings. So that's the story on the Live Ship Trader series. Just going to be a little bit delayed as I kind of find time to fit in between other books, the reread of the Farseer trilogy. So yeah, that about wraps it up. That's my look back on the last 10 days or so, and kind of my look forward to the next few weeks. Like I said, you can expect that Blood Rights review this week, the Morningstar review. I'll probably put out a third or fourth video as well. That's kind of to be determined. And then that gives you a glimpse at, kind of the directions I'm taking, looking to take in March and going forward. So I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, like and subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks.